I'm officially done with the words starter home because somewhere along the way, we took the cheapest, oldest, most beat up house in the street, slapped the word starter on it, and convinced an entire generation that buying it was an investment. A lot of times you're not investing in your future. You're not investing in your grandchildren's success and your lineage and your legacy like they're telling you. You're just bailing out the last guy or gals who own that house's neglect. When I envision a starter home, I remember my first house I ever bought. It was a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, like 900 square feet house with a cute little yard, but no AC. Previous owner just never decided to put an AC unit in, and my wife and I bought that freaking house with our, well, it was a newborn. She was pregnant at the time, just like thinking, yeah, it'll be fine. You know, we live in freaking Phoenix, Arizona. We moved in, and it was, oh my gosh, it was the worst decision I've ever made. We would just have to stay huddled in the living room area where there's like a big giant window AC, where that's it. We had like a room AC, I think, for when the baby was born, but for like 3 or 4 months of the year, we were just trying to spend as much time as we can with our in-laws. And that's what I was, right? When you're thinking starter home, you think modest, affordable, first house. The idea is it's not in the best shape, but with you, you're gonna go in there, knock some walls down, and bring it up to shape. And if you think about it, it was a necessary component of any market, because not everybody's gonna be able to afford a completely brand new remodeled everything, right? You have your group of people that are in a different bracket that are just trying to get into a house that they own, and they have the ability and capacity and financial freedom to be able to invest that money in. And that was an incredible time, but if we go back to 2019, homes priced at $300,000 or below made up about 60% of everything on the market, more than half. Today, that same slice is down to 40%. So the affordable shelf got smaller, but it gets worse because the houses that are still on that shelf shrank too. The median size of that price range dropped from about 1,500 square feet to roughly about 1,200 square feet. So not only is the starter home more expensive, less affordable, smaller, but let's talk about the upfront costs that is now required, because maybe, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you get a house that maybe has a 10-year-old, 15-year-old, 20-year-old roof or AC. You can probably squeeze out another 10, 15 years if you are really on top of it and it's been maintained well. Well, what's happening now, a lot of these starter homes that I'm personally seeing with my clients is the roof and the AC are 30 plus years old. Like almost all of them I'm seeing are that. And if they're not 30 plus years old, there's some kind of premium attached that's making the price go up that we're not even probably looking in that price range. Which means if you buy one of these houses, you're immediately not required, but you're gonna be on the fence relatively soon to put a brand new roof or a brand new AC, which is about, at least in here in Arizona, new roof is maybe 12 to 15,000. AC can cost you $8,000, maybe $15,000 as well, depending if you need 1 or 2 units. That may not seem like a lot, but let's just go over some numbers here. If you were to buy a house for $350,000, and let's say in 3 years you can sell it for $385,000, that's an average appreciation of about 3.23%. Let's say you bought a house cash, no loan, no balance, no nothing. Like this makes the math a little bit easier. Anyways, that's about $25,000 of potential equity. Now here's a problem. With that money, you're gonna have to pay fees, right? There's no standardized commission, but average I'm seeing about is between 2 to 3% for each listing agent and buyer agent. So let's just assume 5% for commissions. Let's assume 1% for closing costs or title fees. And unfortunately right now, sellers are having to pay concessions to the buyer for their closing costs. So let's say you're also paying another 2% for closing costs. That leaves $354,000. So your true equity is only about $4,000. But wait, you put a brand new roof in there. Yeah. So if we remove those $12,000, you're at a negative position. There's an upfront charge that these starter homes have right now that are just going to completely start you in the negative. It's going to completely gut you and not put you in an equitable position. The problem I have is if you own your house, you're living in it. If your roof is in bad shape, it's up to you to replace it. If your AC is not working, it's up to you to replace it. But what happens a lot of times is people have it in their mind, oh gosh, I'm going to be selling in the next year anyways, let's just not do it yet. When no, responsible home ownership means repairing and replacing things as they come up. So what's happening is sellers are passing their deferred maintenance onto first-time home buyers because that's not our problem. Whatever, fine. We're done. We're losing money, or this market's not that great. We're giving you 3% of closing costs, so you get stuck with the bill. So am I being a rebel right now and telling you not to buy and to completely forget this idea of owning your first house? No, I'm a dirty, dirty capitalist pig. No, I'm not telling you that, okay? What I'm telling you is stop buying the story, right? The starter home that I'm gonna put my white picket fence. I'm gonna paint the walls and make it more modern, and I'm going to fix up a grandma's sink that she never repaired or replaced. When you walk into a so-called starter home, I don't want you seeing a stepping stone. I want you running the real numbers. How old is the roof? How old are the systems? What is the sewer scope saying? What's going to cost you in year 1 and what's going to cost you in year 3? If the price already assumes it's fixed and it's not, that's not a deal I want you to pay. I don't want your money going towards someone else's procrastination. Price the neglecting, negotiate with what you know, and when you do your inspection, adjust accordingly, because you might discover more things. Maybe you discover they're not in that rough a shape, or maybe you discover they're in worse shape than before. So in conclusion, stop letting the word starter home lower your standards. I feel like when we're told something's a starter home, we like, oh, okay, fine. We're okay with things being crappy. I'm okay with having to do this. I'm okay with that. No, you've worked your ass off for every penny that you're using for this house, whether it be down payment or closing costs or their monthly payment or whatever you're going to be doing. That's your money. Make them work for your freaking money, because you're doing them a favor too by having this neglected house being passed on to you. Make them work for it. And if they're trying to charge you a premium on a house that needs work, then reduce that premium or go find something else. Or if they don't want to repair it, at least have them give you some kind of value in equal to it, like reducing the price or closing costs or something that's worth your time. Make them work for your money. If you want to know what my top 5 tips are for all first-time home buyers and basically going over the biggest mistakes you could potentially make, check out this video I made recently that goes over that. It's a good starting point if this is your first video you ever watch of me. Thank you guys so much. For those that don't know me, my name is Javi. I essentially make videos for home buyers to help educate them and get them started. So, all right, I'm freaking fired up now. I gotta go.